Welcome back to Fireside Giants. The New York Giants are entering the 2020 season with a new coaching staff and an upgraded roster. Taking all their new additions into account, what are the three strongest positions on the roster currently? I'm going to give my opinion, and then I'd love to hear yours down in the comment section down below. But before we get into it, make sure you leave a like if you enjoy the video, and be sure to subscribe for more great New York Giants content, and ring the bell so you don't miss a video. Now let's get into it. In my opinion, the defensive line is the strongest position group on the New York Giants roster in 2020. I think the combination of Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Davon Tomlinson, and even B.J. Hill as a rotational piece is really excellent and the strongest part of the roster by far. Leonard Williams was a big acquisition last season. Midway through the year, Dave Gettleman gave up a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick in order to acquire Leonard Williams. He's now on the franchise tag, and the Giants and him are in a little bit of a contract dispute. I made a video on that recently, so you can check that out if you want to hear more. While I don't think he's worth $18 to $20 million per year, Leonard Williams is probably the best player on the Giants defense right now. He is the most proven and the most consistent. He made the Pro Bowl in 2016, and with the Giants last year, he wasn't spectacular, but he definitely had an impact. With the Giants, he racked up 17 pressures in only 8 games, which is a pretty solid number. He only missed 1 tackle and actually had 26 combined tackles, 10 quarterback knockdowns, 6 quarterback hurries, and a half of a sack. Now, obviously, the sack number needs to go up. That is the most important part, and that is the most controversial aspect to Leonard Williams' game. He gets a lot of pressures, but oftentimes those pressures don't translate into sacks. Sometimes you'll see quarterbacks get pressured by Leonard Williams, get out of the pocket, and then deliver a touchdown pass, like Dak Prescott did in their Week 9 matchup, which was Leonard Williams' first game with the New York Giants. But throughout his career, Leonard Williams has been a solid player. Of course, he played for the New York Jets. He was a first-round draft pick in 2015, and he's never missed a game due to injury. Since then, he's never cracked 10 sacks in a single season. His career high is 7 sacks in 2016. He made the Pro Bowl that year. He also forced 2 fumbles that season, had 11 tackles for loss, and 19 quarterback hits. At 26 years old, Leonard Williams is a really talented player who has a long-term future with the Giants if they can get a contract done. Currently, the deadline is July 15th at 4 p.m. for the Giants and Leonard Williams to agree to a long-term contract. If Williams and the Giants do not agree to terms on a long-term deal by July 15th, he's either going to have to play the season on the franchise tag, or he could hold out for more money. That would be a really big issue because he's really not that welcomed by a lot of Giants fans in the first place. A lot of fans didn't think that was a trade worth making, but Dave Gettleman did. Now, alongside Leonard Williams, you have 2 really talented players in Dexter Lawrence and Davon Tomlinson. Dexter Lawrence was a 17th overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Giants' second first-round pick of that draft, the first one being the GOAT, Danny Dimes. Dexter Lawrence is the absolute largest hog molly ever, 6'4", 342 pounds, out of Clemson, was a really talented player in college, and so far has proven to continue to be a talented player in the NFL. He played and started in all 16 games this year for the Giants. He forced 1 fumble, had 2.5 sacks, 38 combined tackles, 9 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for loss, and 15 pressures. And that's a pretty high pressure number for a guy who initially was considered to just be a 2-down, run-stuffing defensive tackle. But that's not at all what he is. He's a very underrated pass rusher, and that's what gives him so much value on this team. Dexter Lawrence is quite nimble for a guy that size, over 340 pounds, but you wouldn't suspect it when you see the way that he moves on the field. He's pretty quick, definitely has the ability to finesse around offensive linemen and get in the backfield, whether he's pass rushing or run stuffing. And then, of course, being that he's just an absolute mammoth human being and extremely strong, he's definitely difficult to move as a run defender and does an excellent job plugging holes and getting tackles for loss in that aspect too. Now, the defensive lineman that has been with the Giants for the longest and is the oldest of the group is Davon Tomlinson. Tomlinson was from the Jerry Reese 2017 draft class. He was the second round pick of that draft class, and ever since then, he's been an excellent player for the Giants defense. Since 2017, Davon Tomlinson has played and started in all 16 games for the Giants, has not missed a game, and has really been an excellent, consistent player. 2019 was a career year for Davon Tomlinson. The season started off about average, but once Leonard Williams was added to the fold, Davon Tomlinson's game hit another level. I think that it was really caused by Leonard Williams being there and drawing more double teams and freeing up more one-on-one blocks for Davon Tomlinson. Tomlinson was able to reach a career high 3.5 sacks after having 0 sacks in 2018. And he also had 13 pressures, and he only missed 3 tackles, and he had 49 combined tackles and 7 tackles for loss. Entering his 4th season, the Giants will soon need to make a decision regarding Davon Tomlinson's contract. He was a second-round pick, so they do not have a 5th-year option on his contract. The Giants will need to decide whether or not to extend Tomlinson after the 2020 season. Davon Tomlinson has been the most consistent and efficient defender on the Giants for the past 3 years. In my opinion, he absolutely deserves a contract extension, and the Giants really cannot afford to let him walk. Now, maybe they can't afford to pay him either. That could be an issue depending on how much they pay Leonard Williams. Many fans will disagree with paying 2 interior defensive linemen big contracts, but I don't think Davon Tomlinson's contract will cost anything close to what Leonard Williams is asking for. Davon Tomlinson will be definitely closer to $10 million than he is to $20 million. I'd assume he'd be somewhere around $12 million per year, just because the interior defensive line free agency class this past offseason has really seen an inflation in price. A lot of interior defensive linemen have been getting a big bag, and Davon Tomlinson could be the next to do so. He's not really a big name. He's not known around the league. He's not a household name by any means, but for the Giants, he's been extremely reliable and extremely efficient, and I think that he's definitely a long-term building block for the Giants that they absolutely should try to keep around. Now, behind these top 3 starters, the Giants have a really solid backup interior defensive lineman, someone who I believe could have been a long-term starter for the Giants if not for that Leonard Williams trade that pushed B.J. Hill down the depth chart. B.J. Hill in his rookie 2018 season played in 16 games and started in 12 of them. He had 2 passes defended and a really impressive 5.5 sacks. I think that broke a Giants record. He also added 6 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits, and 14 quarterback pressures. He only missed 2 tackles. He was a really solid player for the Giants, a big surprise. I don't think anyone expected him to have the impact that he did. He was a 5th-round draft pick, and he stepped on the scene and immediately looked like one of the best players on the Giants' pretty bad defense. So maybe it was the fact that the Giants' defense was pretty bad that B.J. Hill looked so good. But honestly, I think that he was just impressive. I thought he was a good player, a nice gem found by Dave Gettleman. We know he loves his hog mollies, as I've said, and I think he's really good at finding hog mollies in the later rounds. I think B.J. Hill was one of them. So I definitely think B.J. Hill could be a starter if something goes on with Leonard Williams and his contract and they decide to part ways after only one 8-game season. If they decide to part ways with Leonard Williams, I think B.J. Hill will step right into that role and be a really solid player with the Giants, or continue to be, because I thought he already was a solid player. He saw his number of snaps decrease from 642 to 487. That was 59% of defensive snaps in 2018, all the way down to 44% of these defensive snaps in 2019. Now, the next strongest position group on the Giants, in my opinion, is the running back position. I think the best player on the team plays running back, Saquon Barkley. He's nearly inhuman. I think he's maybe an alien with the size of his legs and the strength of his lower body and his tackle breaking ability. He's a really special talent. We all know that. But the reason that I don't think this is the strongest position on the team, despite having the best player on the team, is because of the depth. Now, there is some pretty solid depth potential here, but when you compare that to the defensive line, there's not nearly as much depth. Now, Saquon Barkley, I'm expecting huge things from him this season in a new offensive scheme with Jason Garrett. I thought that he was really held back last season by Pat Shurmur, by the run blocking of the offensive line, but those are 2 things that I think are going to be improved this year. I think Jason Garrett's play calling is going to be much better than Pat Shurmur's, because Pat Shurmur's I thought was really poor. And then we also improved the offensive line quite a bit. We got a new offensive line coach in Mark Colombo, and we also have a new left tackle. The right tackle position is going to be quite a battle. I'm not sure if Nate Solder is going to move over there or if it's going to go to Cameron Fleming. And then the center position is still the biggest weakness on the team. Spoiler alert for next week's video. Now, Saquon Barkley, what can I say that hasn't already been said? He's arguably the best running back in the NFL. In his rookie season, he had over 1,300 rushing yards, 11 rushing touchdowns. He also managed to have 91 receptions, which was a Giants rookie record at any position. He broke Odell Beckham Jr.'s record. He also had 4 receiving touchdowns, and he led the NFL with 2,028 yards from scrimmage. In 2019, as I mentioned, he missed 3 games due to injury, but he still managed to have 1,003 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, and he caught 52 receptions for 2 receiving touchdowns, which was a total of 1,441 yards from scrimmage. Behind Saquon Barkley, there is a pretty good discussion to be had. Dion Lewis, former New England Patriot, and then Tennessee Titan. He played in all 16 games with the Titans last year, only started in one of them though, and he had 209 rushing yards on 54 attempts. But that's not really his game. Dion Lewis isn't really a rusher. He's more of a receiver who plays running back. He's a good scat back, and he'll definitely be solid to come in relief of Saquon Barkley when he needs a breather. Saquon is going to get the ball a lot this year, but hopefully they can give him some breaks here and there and let Dion Lewis go out there, maybe catch a few screen passes or whatnot, because he is a pretty solid receiver. In 2018, he had 400 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. 13 of his receptions went for first downs, and he's definitely someone the Giants could implement in their receiving game. Maybe even put him at slot receiver here and there. He's 5'8", 195 pounds. So if you were to put him out at receiver, he would get the ball in his hands, and being a running back, he's very elusive and could definitely have a chance of creating a play after the catch. If Saquon Barkley were to get injured once again, the backup running back position I don't really think is set, and that's why I don't think it's the strongest position on the group. Wayne Gomen, I thought, was a pretty solid player. He started in 2 games last year when Saquon Barkley was injured, but towards the end of the year, the Giants stopped making him active on the final rosters before games. He wasn't even suited up to play. He was a healthy scratch from a few of those games towards the end of the year. When he played, he had 29 rushing attempts in 2019, which went for 110 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. His longest rush was 22 yards. He averaged 3.8 yards per carry, and he really wasn't that great. He was okay. He did fumble once. He's had a bit of a fumbling problem in the past. 2017, he had 3 fumbles, 2 fumbles in 2018, brought it down to 1 in 2019. But the Giants just seem to not really enjoy playing Wayne Gallman that much. That's hence why he was a healthy scratch towards the end of the year. So I don't even know if he's going to be on the roster in 2020. He could be a training camp or preseason cut. Now, another interesting name to add into the mix is Javon Leake, that undrafted rookie free agent that I mentioned earlier out of Maryland. So he's a really fast and athletic running back who actually has a lot of talent. He did return kicks as well, was a pretty solid kick returner. Had 2 kick return touchdowns in 2019 with Maryland, 1 in 2018. Actually racked up 804 kick return yards in 2019 on 30 returns. That's an average of 26.8 yards per return, and was a pretty solid running back too. 102 attempts, 736 rushing yards, which was a 7.2 average with 8 rushing touchdowns, which seems really ridiculous, but he was playing in the Big Ten with Maryland, so I don't know how much stock you can put into his statistics at Maryland, but you can definitely see some really nice traits on the field. A lot of speed, which is really exciting, and maybe he is someone that could step in as a backup to Saquon Barkley and compete for that second running back role. But all in all, despite major question marks at the backup running back position, it's hard to deny this as one of the top strengths of the team when you have Saquon Barkley as a starting running back. Like I said, what more can be said about Saquon Barkley? The man, I don't even think he's human. I think he's an alien. Watch the video of him doing those squats with over 500 pounds on his back. His legs are tree trunks, and I can't wait to watch him play in 2020. The third strongest position, in my opinion, is at safety. And it's the position that I think I'm most excited to watch this year. We have a really exciting group of players with Jabril Peppers, Xavier McKinney, and Julian Love. They're all going to fit different roles in this defense, and they're going to really mesh together because all 3 of them are really versatile. And I think together they're going to create a really solid tandem, well, trio of safeties that's going to make this defense look a lot better than it really is, just because they can do so much. You got Jabril Peppers. He's a really great player who can play in the box. Xavier McKinney, you can line him up at anywhere. You can put him at slot, you can put him at free safety, strong safety, linebacker in the box. You can even put him out wide sometimes. And then Julian Love, kind of similar there. I wouldn't put him as a linebacker so much, but he can definitely play in the box. That's where he played the majority of his snaps in the 2019 season. But I really like him as a free safety and as a slot cornerback as well. Julian Love was a fourth-round draft pick in 2019, and he's someone who really surprised me last year. He started in 5 games for the Giants after Jabril Peppers went down with injury, and the common misconception is that he played free safety, but he didn't. Most of his snaps did come in the box. A lot of them did also come at slot cornerback. A lot of people think he didn't play that. He did play that quite a bit last year, according to Pro Football Focus. In his time with the Giants in 2019, he forced 1 fumble, had 3 passes defended, 1 interception, and 37 combined tackles, including 5 tackles for loss. When quarterbacks were targeting Julian Love in coverage, he was targeted 29 times, led up 19 completions for 190 yards. That's only 10 yards per completion, so maybe that could go down a bit, but I really don't think that's too bad of a number. He led up 1 touchdown in coverage, which is an 81.1 passer rating, which, if you ever look at these stats of defensive backs, that's actually pretty good. Of the players that are run defenders as safeties, you can make the debate that Jabril Peppers is the best of the 3 as a run defender, but you could also make the debate that Xavier McKinney is the best. So both of them are really talented as run defenders. Jabril Peppers was definitely a force to be reckoned with the Giants this past season. He forced 3 fumbles in 2019, and he only played in 11 games. He also had 1 interception, which was a pick 6 against that boy Dwayne Haskins. Went all the way home for a touchdown. It was really exciting. I was actually at that game, and that was pretty awesome. But Jabril Peppers, another player who misses quite a bit of tackles. He missed 11 tackles last season and the season before that. Over 12% missed tackle rate on both of those seasons. So that's something he needs to work on. But overall, we know what he is. We've seen him play quite a bit, and we know that he's a great run defender, and he's pretty good in coverage too. I think that he can definitely line up against tight ends. I don't want to see him going up against wide receivers necessarily, but I think that you put him up on a tight end, you've got a pretty good chance that Jabril Peppers is going to lock him up. And he could be the X factor of this defense heading into 2020. Now, absolutely, the biggest steal for the Giants in the 2020 NFL Draft was their 36th overall selection with Xavier McKinney. He had 59 tackles in 2019 at Alabama. He forced 4 fumbles and also had 3 interceptions. That is 7 turnovers forced in Alabama in 2019. That's pretty incredible. He had 95 total tackles. I mean, as a safety to be doing that, he was a huge part of that defense, and he was so talented. And one thing that's super underrated about Xavier McKinney is his pass rushing ability. He had 23 pressures on 73 pass rushing attempts, which is a really high pressure rate for a safety. And I think that's huge because the scheme that Patrick Graham is going to be running this season is very blitz heavy, very man coverage heavy, and those are the 2 things that Xavier McKinney, can't say his name for some reason, excels at. He's excellent in man coverage, and he's excellent at blitzing from that safety position. So when you combine that with Julian Love's really good coverage and run defending abilities, and then Jabril Peppers' downhill thumping mentality and great run defending abilities, all of those 3 combined are really going to be the glue that holds this defense together. And I think we've got 3 really solid, talented, young players at this position that could really be the face of this defense for the next decade or so. I'm really that confident in each of these guys as talented football players. So that'll do it for today's video, guys. Thank you for tuning in once again to Fireside Giants. Be sure to leave this video a like if you enjoyed. I'd love to hear your opinions down below in the comments section. Make sure you subscribe for more awesome New York Giants content, including a really nice podcast that has had actual New York Giants players on as guests before, so be sure to check that out as well. And make sure you ring the bell if you're already subscribed, because our videos haven't been showing up in inboxes lately, and we kind of want to help combat that mistake that YouTube is making by having you guys click the notification bell if you so please. So please go ahead and do that if you enjoy our videos. and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.